When you have your staff taking the Fifth Amendment, taking the Fifth, so they're not prosecuted. When you have the man that set up the illegal server taking the Fifth, I think it's disgraceful.
The mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment?
Have you seen what's going on in front of Congress? Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Horrible. Horrible.
Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Wednesday, August 10th, 2022. Welcome to day 568. Donald Trump invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination during a deposition with the New York Attorney General's office. Since March 2019, Letitia James's office has been investigating whether the Trump Organization manipulated asset values to secure more favorable loans and tax benefits. Attorneys for James's office have said in court that their investigation has collected evidence that Trump and his company have repeatedly used, quote, fraudulent and misleading financial statements, end quote, and that many of those statements were, quote, generally inflated as part of a pattern to suggest that Mr. Trump's net worth was higher than it otherwise would have appeared, end quote. Trump says he had absolutely no choice but to take the Fifth during his under oath interview. In addition to Trump, Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump have all agreed to sit for sworn testimony after they lost a court battle to quash the subpoenas. While it's still unclear whether Ivanka or Trump Jr. invoked the Fifth Amendment, Eric Trump did so more than 500 times during his deposition as part of the same investigation in 2020. At a campaign stop in Iowa in 2016, Trump suggested that people who cite the Fifth Amendment were guilty, saying, quote, if you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment, end quote. Meanwhile, the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago was reportedly focused on whether Trump and his aides had returned all the documents and other materials that were government property. Following a Justice Department investigation into Trump's handling of classified and other material, officials became suspicious that Trump had not fully complied with requests to return the material that he took from the White House. Trump did return 15 boxes of materials to the National Archives in January, but FBI agents removed another 12 boxes from Mar-a-Lago on Tuesday that had been in the resort's basement. The warrant authorizing the search was reportedly based on information from an FBI confidential human source who identified what classified documents Trump still had and the location of those documents. Moving on, U.S. inflation rose 8.5% in July from a year ago, a slight deceleration from 9.1% in June. The slower pace reflects lower energy costs and a drop in the price of gasoline, which has fallen for 57 days in a row since reaching a high of more than $5 a gallon in June. Meanwhile, Joe Biden signed legislation that expands healthcare benefits to millions of veterans who are exposed to toxic burn pits during their military service. The bipartisan bill known as the PACT Act is the most significant expansion of veteran healthcare and benefits in more than 30 years. And finally, the Justice Department charged a member of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps with plotting the assassination of John Bolton, who served in senior national security positions during the Trump and Bush administrations. Prosecutors say the man had offered $300,000 to hire someone to kill Bolton at his office in D.C. or at his home in Maryland. The DOJ says the plot was likely in retaliation for the U.S. assassination of top Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani in January 2020. And in the polls, NPR says 63% of Americans support using the popular vote to select a president, compared to 35% who say they'd rather use the Electoral College. USA Today says 70% of Americans support using a ballot measure to decide abortion rights in their state. 54% say they would vote in favor of making abortion legal if there were a ballot measure. And Reuters says 40% of Americans approve of the job that Joe Biden is doing as president, his highest rating in 2 months. 55%, meanwhile, disapprove. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.